covering the Utes better than anyone else. This is Ute Insider Steve Bartle of KSLSports.com on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Out to the zone phone we go. He covers the Utes for KSLSports.com. He joins us on Fridays. He's Steve Bartle. What's up, Steve?
What's up, fellas? How we doing?
Steve, you ready to call this season the hot to-go curse? Is this the Chapel Roan curse for the University of Utah? Is this your fault, Steve?
Dude, apparently a lot of things are my fault this season, and I am willing to take the blame. I will be that guy.
I heard you got Andy Ludwig fired. That was a new
Good
one to
grief.
me. You're powerful, man. I'm glad we hired you.
Wait, hold on. What point was that guy trying to make? I saw that too, and I was baffled. I too believe in Steve's power of persuasion. But what was that even implying?
That I don't know. I wrote an article, and I wrote the article based on what Kyle Whittingham, some of the sentiments and some of the things he said in his post-game presser.
So you were doing your job.
I wrote my article.
Yeah,
I was doing my job.
All right.
And apparently that
did it.
That did it. So,
note to self.
I don't know.
Note to self. Be nicer to Steve.
Whit was on the station this morning, so he's a KSL Sports fan.
Obviously.
Wow.
Okay. Anyway, I didn't
Appreciate
mean to hijack the interview. I just didn't know where that was coming from. So good to know.
Steve, it's crazy. Utah's on a bye week, and things have gotten worse from a health perspective from the last time we talked. Money Parks is out for the rest of the year. Heward is now hurt and has an injury and is not going to come back. Do we know anything about the Heward background, and was this like an elective surgery and he realized he wasn't in the running, or did something happen?
I haven't heard specifics on what led to the injury. It's interesting though, because after the game Cam got hurt, Arizona State, after that I had heard that Heward was elevated to QB3, and that during that week of practice he actually he was showing good signs of progress. So that was during the TCU week. And so this happened. This has all happened pretty recently with Heward. So caught me by surprise to hear that this morning from Whit, because it's been pretty mum on Heward since then. But yeah, I mean, Money Parks earlier this week, it was announced that he's out for the season. And we saw that injury in the Houston game. He took a big hit. And so not too surprising there. But yeah, the injuries, I mean, they just continue to mount. And at some point, Whittingham and the coaching staff, the auxiliary staff and strength and conditioning, they really need to take a closer look at what they're doing, because this is now, it's not just this year and it's not just last year, even the year before, in 2022, you can go through that season and there were a good number of injuries there too. And so they've got to take a closer look at what they're doing, how much workload they're putting on these guys, because these injuries are just mounting. And some of these are, freak injuries. Obviously, you can't control Money Parks getting injured, taking a big hit, and there's not much you can really do there. But just the amount of injuries overall, it's baffling what we've seen over the last couple of years with Utah.
Steve, it's crazy to me what they're putting Isaac Wilson through. I was walking around the other day, and I of course got notified about a Bartle bomb, saying that the reps are going to be split 50-50 in practice and this open competition stuff. And I'm just thinking to myself, this kid isn't going to have enough confidence to pick his nose. What are they doing? What are they doing to this? He's a true freshman. That there's stuff that comes along with that, and that's what you bargained for when you played him in the first place, and now they're just running him through the ringer. I don't get it. I don't get it at all.
It's interesting, right? And we don't know the reasoning why exactly. Kyle Whittingham was pretty short in what he shared, that him and Rose are splitting reps. But he also noted that Wilson has been dealing with some injuries that have mounted. And you go back to that Houston game last week, he took a couple big hits. And I think, those hits, one, he was tossed to the ground pretty hard and came up. He had to leave the game because of his non-throwing arm seemed to be took a direct hit with the ground and was shaken up. And so, it seems like injuries have contributed to this. But also, too, over the last couple games, he's dealt with just so much pressure, so many defenders in his face. And, I think part of this, maybe it's to protect him, because he's just not getting the sort of protection he needs. He's not getting the ball out quickly enough. And so perhaps that's part of the equation here. We don't know because Kyle Whittingham hasn't explained that. But I do think, with Rose and with Wilson, this bye week is crucial for them to really just kind of reset and get back to some of the foundational things that they need to do and start executing at a better level. So with this week to compete, it's really about who's going to take this opportunity serious enough. And it sounds like these guys are taking it serious and are going to practice. They've had good practices. Kyle Whittingham's noted that this week, that on Tuesday they just had one of their best practices of the season. And that's going to be important. They've just got to continue to build, stack these days on top of each other and move forward. But it's certainly, the quarterback position is certainly a delicate position compared to the rest of the football team. And there's certainly some nuance. And, for us on the outside, it appears like some of that nuance, some of that, care is a little lacking. But I think, we need to give this group, these guys, time to get through this, to work through this. And we'll see. We'll see what that translates next week on Saturday against BYU.
Beating BYU is the biggest thing Utah could do for the rest of the year. That would be the biggest accomplishment. I guess maybe making a bowl game would be number 2. But let me kind of take that conversation off the table. What's the most important thing Utah needs to do over the final 4 games to be in the best spot to compete next year?
What a good question, Ben, because really, I think that BYU game would really do a lot for them in terms of what it means for them moving forward beyond this season, because that can directly impact, a number of different things, recruiting in state, and that's going to be a big point of focus. You get a big win over BYU, who's at the top of the conference. That can do a lot for you moving forward. I do think this BYU game has a lot riding on it for Utah and BYU as well, right? Like, they've got this tremendous season, and you have the chance to play spoiler. That can do a lot for you as well to maintain, I shouldn't say maintain, but to potentially, gain an edge in that battle, right, in that rivalry and going into the offseason. So I do think that BYU game has a lot going on for Utah, has a lot of potential for the program to kind of build moving forward. But really, you just want to see, signs of progress from certain individuals. Obviously, the quarterback position, you'd love to see that sort of settled and at least have a better idea than what you have right now of what that group is going to be moving forward. You'd love to see somebody emerge. And Isaac Wilson can certainly be that guy. Potentially, Brandon Rose, takes advantage of this opportunity of a renewed quarterback battle, and perhaps he steps forward in that room. So that's probably the next biggest thing you'd like to see over the next 4 games is somebody, take that next step in that quarterback room to set you up for the future. I think that's super important as well. And, it's just, you want to see this group continue to fight, continue to put in the effort over these next 4 games. These are, we've talked about it all season long. This stretch is now, without a question, the toughest stretch of the schedule, given what BYU and Iowa State and even Colorado's playing. They've gotten so much better over the course of the year. And with the star talents that they have, that's a tough game. And UCF, too, that's going to present a challenge because Utah has struggled to stop the run lately. And with the way that they run the ball, this is going to be a tough stretch. So you just want to see these guys continue to play hard and do that moving forward.
Steve, I'm sure you're a man who's been employed a bunch throughout your life. Have you ever been hired to a position where your job basically is to take the blame? Like, I could honestly tell you, I've taken a job where my whole job was going to be to take the blame for things that I had very little to do with, if any. But you know who was getting blamed? This guy. That was the job. You ever had one of those?
I have not experienced that in my
terrible.
life, but maybe I'm feeling that right now. Maybe is that what this feels like this year? Is that
it's terrible. You don't want to do it. But with that in mind, what kind of candidates are going to be available for Utah to hire at offensive coordinator? I mean this seriously, because Witt's offensive coordinator hires in the past have not been very imaginative. They've been in his close circle for whatever reason, and I would argue that it hasn't gone terrifically well. Even Andy Ludwig is from his inner circle. You know, they go back to coaching under Mac. I mean, who would this is too mean, but I'll put it this way anyway. Who would take that job?
You know, it's interesting because you look at this team and there's still plenty of talent on this roster. There's still a lot of guys that you can build with. That offensive line is tremendous. And, you know, if you have an offensive line that, has two really good offensive tackles, the way Utah does with Caleb Lomu and Spencer Fano, that's a great starting point for any offensive coordinator. You'd love to have a good offensive line because that can do a lot for you. The quarterback situation, obviously, that can be fixed in an offseason, right? You dip into the portal, you can change your fortunes with a good transfer addition. Or you could go the other way, the opposite way, with a bad transfer portal addition. But there's still always that potential to kind of flip that spot, you know, in the transfer portal. We've seen it throughout the country. We've seen Cam come in here at Utah, transfer from Texas, come in and kind of flip the fortunes for Utah over the last few years. We've seen it work the other way for Utah with Jake Bentley and Charlie Brewer, where those two didn't work out. So you can flip that position pretty quickly. With the offensive coordinator position, obviously you got to look at Mike Bajakian first and foremost. He's the guy in the seat right now, and he has an opportunity to kind of prove his worth. And, you know, it's really a situation where, you know, he's going to have an advantage because he knows the personnel and he knows and just knows what the strengths and weaknesses of this group moving forward is. So you look at him first and foremost. Beyond that, you know, then the question becomes, well, who's going to be, you know, we know where Whittingham is at in his career. So whose decision is this going to be really? Is it going to be Kyle Whittingham's decision to find an offensive coordinator? Is it potentially going to be Morgan Skelly? Does he have a voice in this next offensive coordinator search? And that potentially changes things in terms of who Utah looks to and who they potentially, you know, what sort of offensive coordinator they're looking for. You know, and with Morgan Skelly, obviously he's coached at Utah. He's been under Kyle Whittingham for all these years. But, you know, he knows where this game is headed. He knows that the passing game is going to be it's such a focal point, you know, not only offensively but defensively too, right? He's mentioned this you know, over the last couple of years that, you know, defenders even want to, you know, they want to see an offense that can throw the ball because that's just where the game is headed. And he knows that, you know, a good offense can impact recruiting, and that's super important. So, you know, it'll be interesting to see once we get into the offseason to learn some of the dynamics of this next offensive coordinator search. Obviously, it's super important given where the program is at with Kyle Whittingham and Morgan Skelly in the waiting. And, you know, we'll see what that brings.
I told Ben this earlier. They need to hire Cooper Manning.
Bring his son over.
Yeah.
Bring Arch Manning.
Cooper Manning.
And I said backup quarterbacks in Texas have worked well at Utah, at running back and at quarterback.
Bring in his kid. Yeah.
Bring in Arch. Hey, I'm with it. You know, we love those sort of package deals. Those are great. Yeah, I'm with that.
Yeah, you could sell it. He's a Manning. I mean, who cares how much coaching experience he has? And then he brings his kid, and there you go. Problem solved. You know.
Yeah, I mean, that's great.
I need to start my own search firm for coaching. Really, I find the whole concept of a search firm stupid. It feels like you're just giving somebody else money to do your job or whatever. But I could come up with better candidates than these firms do. Are you kidding me? I'd hire Cooper Manning tomorrow.
The Jake Hatch search firm.
Yeah, exactly.
Jake Scott.
I'll work for Hatch.
Oh, yeah, Jake Hatch
fine.
is fine too.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Oh, Jake Scott, my bad. I think you Jake mixed up, man. Forgive me. I apologize.
He gets my emails.
Halloween last
does.
night,
Yeah.
you know. I'm sorry.
No,
I'm sorry,
okay.
Jake.
Did you walk around with? You've got a young child. Did you guys go trick or treating?
We did, yeah. We went out with our neighbors last night. We've all got kids around the same age within all a couple months, so that was fun. We then came back to our house and had a nice little Halloween get-together party type of deal. So, yeah, last night was a lot of fun. Miles dressed up as Stanley Yelnats from Holes. And,
oh, nice.
And we had a good time.
What'd you dress up as?
I was Mr. Sir from holes. So
Did you have
was,
the tattoo? Does he have the tattoo, or is it the woman who has the tattoo?
I think it's the woman who has the tattoo.
Yeah, she's got the snake tattoo.
Yeah, I think it's the woman. I had the straw hat. I had the belt buckle, the tucked-in shirt. Yeah, I pulled it off really well.
I would have been one of those people that looked at you, Bartle, and go, I have no idea what that guy's doing.
I don't know what you are.
I've got no clue. Bartle, thank you. You're great. We'll follow all of your work. We'll continue to follow all
Thanks,
of your
Steve.
work at KSLSports.com. Thanks, buddy.
Jake, Scott, Ben Anderson, appreciate you both.
Have a great weekend, Steve.